meeting. There's your announcement there. So again, we'll have everything muted. Please feel free to use the chat box. We'll have some folks keeping an eye on that throughout today's webinar, so please feel free to chime in that way. And if you're having any technical issues, if you either can't hear me, you're having trouble seeing the screen, or you're unable to speak up or unmute yourself or have any other functions, feel free to email Erin Monaco at monaco.25@osu.edu. At the end, we will have a Q&A. I won't necessarily unmute everybody at once, but you'll be able to definitely unmute yourself and speak up at that time. Okay, Erin, I'll go ahead and get started. So I wanted to say welcome. I want to bring up my got two computers going here, so pardon me while I can get things set up here. All right. So we want to welcome you all. For those of you, we just had a coordinators call, so there's a number of our Great Lakes Clean Marina coordinators on this call as well. But for those of you, if you are new to the Clean Marina Network, we want to say hello and invite you, if you have not already, to explore the Great Lakes Clean Marina Network website. It's a fantastic resource both for Clean Marina coordinators and for marina owners, as well as anyone else who's interested in clean marina initiatives or best practices. It was started from a Great Lakes Restoration Initiative project and was started for Great Lakes marinas, but it's certainly a great resource for any marina regardless of where you are. So some resources we always point out that we feel are great for folks to pay attention to. There's a media kit that is fantastic to help promote any marinas that you have certified, or think of ideas of how you can promote certification in your state. There's a list of program coordinators. I know Erin and I are going to be, you'll hear from some of the coordinators, some new folks today. So Erin and I will be updating that. Erin DeVries with Michigan Sea Grant. That'll be your current list of coordinators that if you need to reach out to in your respective states, as well as certified marine owners and operators. Part of the network's mission is not only to help leverage our efforts on clean marinas across the Great Lakes, but also to promote our clean marinas across the Great Lakes. So we try and think of ways to help market each other, because we all benefit when clean marinas have an improved image and marketing and promotion across our states. There's boater education rack cards, which are fantastic regardless of whether you have a certification program or not. They're great educational resources, as well as videos, discounts that are a number of products that offer discounts if you are a certified clean marina, and then finally the clean marina location. All right. So this time I'm going to move into kind of a round robin that we typically do on our network calls, where each of the states is given the opportunity to speak up and share what they're doing in their state. And so I'm going to go around the room, and coordinators, if you are able to unmute yourself, that'd be great. Otherwise, I will try to do it for you. Okay. So at this point, we're going to go to Minnesota. Is there someone from Minnesota on the call?
Hi, this is Ashley McFarland from Minnesota Sea Grant, but if I'm the only one from Minnesota on the call, I probably don't have anything to provide as an update since I'm new.
That's all right. Thanks, Ashley, for speaking up. And if you wanted to, do you mind just sharing a few seconds about yourself and introducing yourself to everyone that you're the new coordinator or working with Minnesota in the Clean Marinas program?
Sure. So I just started with Minnesota Sea Grant in September, and I was hired as the business and industry liaison. And so I work with the maritime industry, with transportation and infrastructure here in the Twin Ports, and also tourism. I haven't really been able to dive yet into the Clean Marina program in Minnesota much, but looking forward to doing that as I already work kind of in the maritime community quite a bit with other things. I'm originally from Iowa, but I've spent time in northern Idaho and also was most recently at Michigan State University in the Upper Peninsula. So I'm still on Lake Superior, which I love, and hoping to be able to work towards protecting that as much as possible.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Ashley, and welcome. We're glad to have you. All right. Wisconsin?
I was going to ask Julia to give this update since there's a lot to report. I don't know if she's on the phone right now. Well, if not, this is Vicki Harris, and I am retiring as Wisconsin's Clean Marina Coordinator at the end of the month. Teresa Qualls, who I think is on the line, is has accepted the position of the new coordinator, and our program is being transferred somewhat from the Wisconsin Marine Association back to the University of Wisconsin Sea Grant, but it will still be jointly managed.
Thank you, Vicki. Right. And Teresa, if you want to, feel free to say hello. If you want to say hello.
Hello, this is Teresa Qualls, and I'm excited to be part of the program. Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa. We're glad to have you. Illinois.
Hi, this is Kim Creeling. I'm the coordinator for Illinois with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources Coastal Management Program. We're a fairly small and new-ish program. 5 years now, so I should probably stop saying it's new. But we have 12 total certified marinas.
Great. And Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm getting mixed up. Do you also have an inland portion, or was that just Indiana that has the inland portion of the program?
That's just Indiana.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, Indiana. Michelle might be still on. I think, Michelle, are you on? You might be muted. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move to Michigan, and if anything, we'll come back to Indiana. All right, Erin, are you on? Or other folks in Michigan? Perfect.
Yes, this is Erin. I'm not sure who else has chimed in or will chime in for Michigan, but I'll say that we had a banner year this year. We we now have approximately 75 marinas certified in Michigan. I say approximately because we might have a couple more that come through before the holidays, and still adding up some numbers and getting those all on our Google map, but it's been the largest growth year so far, and I think that's due to our partners with MBIA, our partnership with MBIA, and myself, who works for Michigan Sea Grant. We put together 4 live classroom events, which are really successful. We just had our 4th one last week at our yearly recreational boating educational conference. And so what we did earlier this year was we sort of merged our online classroom, which is available to any marina in the entire country, but we have our marinas go through our online classroom and learn about best management practices. Well, what we did was we took the online classroom, turned it into a live version, and then had our certification consultants join us and go through our certification checklist at the same time and answer any questions, provide provide examples, and just kind of a learning opportunity for marinas to learn about what it means to be a clean marina, what it means to implement the practices, and then have just peer-to-peer conversations about the difficulty of installing some things versus just managing their marinas. So great success this year, and we also put together, and this is Michigan Sea Grant with the help of distribution by MBIA, put together a program-wide survey, which had never been done before. So we sent it out online and had about a 10% response rate, which we feel is really good. And so we're going to use that, the feedback from the survey, to help us in 2019 maybe even have more more certifications than we did this year, which would be really great for our programming. I think I'm it for Michigan Sea Grant. Danielle, are you on yet? She was having some difficulties. Danielle, I'll just say, I don't think was able to make it this afternoon, but Danielle works with the Michigan Boating Industries Association, and she and Liz Schlager, who have sat in on these calls before, are the program coordinators with MBIA, and so they've been helping us throughout. And Danielle is new. I think she started in July or August with MBIA. That's it for me, for Michigan.
Thanks, Erin. Welcome. I'll cover for Ohio. I don't know if Heather or Jenny are on, but if you guys are listening, feel free to chime in because I'm all over the place today, so I may miss something. But some highlights from 2018 for us. We officially launched a tiered certification program. So we now have a base certification, which basically kind of grandfathers all of our existing clean marinas. And we have built a gold and a platinum level certification. So part of the idea is we've been around really in 2015, it was almost over 10 years. And so we were looking for ways to not only reach marinas that have never, we've never really gotten certified, but also to work with our currently certified marinas to encourage them to continuously improve and offer them maybe a new, invigorating checklist to work with. So we've redone our checklist and built it out so that there's base level, gold level, and a platinum level. And so we started offering those certifications this year. We had our first platinum level certified clean marina, Bay Point Marina in Marblehead, Ohio, this spring, summer. And second marina, Cedar Creek State Park Marina, reaching platinum, and one of our inland marinas, as well as a number of our gold. We actually had City of Sandusky Paper District Marina, Geneva State Park Marina, Holiday Harbor Marina, Huron Lagoons Marina, and Huron Yacht Club all reached gold status. So that was pretty exciting that we rolled this out and had some interest from the marinas and the ability for them to reach that within the first year. And so we'll be moving forward with this tiered program kind of as a learning process. So we'll be doing the best we can to work with that moving forward. And so Bay Point was our one new certified. We had 11 recertified marinas, some of which were gold this year. Another exciting thing that we had is kind of exciting, and it was challenging, but as we worked through it, we had a major regulatory change, and I think I may have mentioned this in a past call, but in 2018, our marinas from a US EPA regulation, or excuse me, Ohio EPA regulation, they're no longer allowed to discharge the boat wash wastewater from the power washing bottoms of the boats. So we worked and actually were able to receive a small grant and put together a series of 5 educational workshops across the state of Ohio in partnership with Ohio EPA and several other partners, a lot of the soil and water conservation districts, to provide education to our marina owners on this regulatory change and to help prepare them for how to handle this wastewater now with the no discharge requirement. So this is a work in progress. We're moving forward, trying to do some research and find some solutions and options for our marina owners. But it was really great that we were able to work together on these workshops and take the regulation and try and get it into an easy to understand educational in-person format that we could go through everything with the marine owners. And that went pretty well. We had over 60 marinas attend any number of the 5 workshops. And so that was, I think that's our year. Erin, I'll leave. We'll see how we do on time and if we want to mention other grants, but we have lots of exciting things coming in 2019. So stay tuned is what I'll say for that. All right. And Pennsylvania, I don't know. Let me see if I can check. I'm not sure if Pennsylvania is on the call. Okay. Then New York, I got an email, I think, that we're having trouble muting. So Dave, I'm going to see if I can unmute you myself. So
I
it looks
think
like you maybe, oh, perfect. Good.
There we Wow, high technology, and I can even do it. Yeah, just a very quick update from New York. New York continues to be purely an educational program in partnership with our state agency and the various marine trade associations across the state, which we have 7 of. I have a colleague that works down in Long Island on the Hudson River, and myself in upstate New York. Our Clean Marina program morphed many years ago to also be a major focus on clean and safe boating. So probably the biggest news coming to the end of the year is we've had an individual, every year I get a different clean and safe boat donated by the industry for the use for the summer. Just this past fall, and we just took possession of it, I had an individual give us a 1967 Evinrude Playmate in excellent condition trailer, motor, and boat for a permanent vessel for our clean and safe boating education program. And the very unique thing about it, it's a 14-foot boat with an inboard-outboard engine on it. And it also has with it a capacity plate for 4 with seating for 5. So it's just going to be an excellent vessel to talk about clean boating, safe boating, working with a lot of our marina partners to do on-site educational training. So that's become a major part of our program, is working with the marine industry on the boater education side of Clean Marina, as well as working with them on maintaining their credibility as a clean marina.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
Hey, Sarah, I don't want to interrupt. I know there's some people that are having some issues getting unmuted. I know Julia is.
I'm working on that. I'm going to see. It's weird because I can see, it looks from my perspective that Michelle is unmuted, so I'm going to see if I can unmute her.
Julia called in, so it's under a different phone number.
They need to unmute. You need to unmute the phone number ones.
Let's see here. Sorry, guys. Hang on one
Not my
second.
name, the phone number I called in on.
Oh, gotcha. You know what I'm wondering, Julie? I'm wondering if because you're on your computer, if it's not letting us have you logged in twice. Let me see. I'm going to do it just to hang in, guys. I'm going to unmute everybody and see if that works. And we can always, and if you don't mind, please mute yourself if you're not talking. So let's see if, Michelle, does that work? Does that allow you to speak up?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Woohoo!
Awesome. And if folks, if you could do me a favor and just please mute yourself if you're not speaking.
Okay.
Thank you. So let me go back to Indiana here. Awesome. Go ahead, Michelle.
All right. I hope everybody can hear me. Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Caldwell. I am the Clean Marina Program Coordinator for Indy, and I also do the Lake Michigan Beaches Monitoring Notification Program. I do the Lake Michigan Basin Marinas. My colleague Karen Khalifa, who should be on the phone, she coordinates the rest of the Clean Marina Program in Indiana, as well as our Clean Vessel Act grant program. We have currently 5 designated clean marinas in Indiana. We're hoping to get more in 2019. A cute thing we had done in the end of October, Hammond Marina is Indiana's very first designated clean marina, and they did their first underwater cleanup initiative. So they had scuba divers volunteer to pick up marine debris and trash and everything at the, not only on surface water, the beaches, but also at the bottom, on the bottom surface of the lake. That was pretty cool. I don't have the numbers of what all was collected. There's still compiling, but that was a neat thing to see and new for Indiana. We are planning a Clean Marina Roundtable for March 2019, where the Marina Harbor Masters can get together and bounce ideas off each other. We're developing a Clean Boater Recognition sticker program for 2019 and beyond. We're also always trying to look to improve the use of social media to promote our program and the awareness. With Karen doing our Clean Vessel Act visits, she's always promoting the Clean Marina program during those as well. We're working on new signage or messaging to prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species at all the marinas. And also, Jimmy Buffett has agreed to update an older Clean Vessel X Pump Out public service announcement. So we're hoping to play that on local radio stations in Lake Michigan Basin this summer. So stay tuned.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michelle. And I apologize for that. So hopefully things are working now at this point. Thank you. Go to, I think we have last but not least, Lake Champlain.
This is Mark Melkoff. I'm sitting in for Chris Stepanek today. As most people know, Lake Champlain forms the border between New York and Vermont, so things get a little weird here. But as Dave mentioned, for New York, there's no certification program, a formal certification program. There is a small inactive certification program in Vermont. So similarly, we are not doing formal kind of stuff, but we're doing a lot of outreach and education informally, general realm of clean boating. And I can talk a little bit about some things that we've done. And this may be plowing some ground that we've been to before, but I'll just mention that we're involved with distributing a Boater's Guide to Handling Oil and Fuel Spills that was developed by Margaret Schneeman with the Illinois Indiana Sea Grant. We've got a few marinas on board with monofilament recycling. 24 of those marinas have educational information that we provided them, and 6 of them are housing these recycling containers that we help manage. Last year, and I may have talked about this before, apologies, we got some undergraduate engineering students at the University of Vermont to kind of remanufacture a prototype of a fuel spill catcher, which seems to work really well. And we're still scrambling around trying to get some local community college advanced engineering institute, manufacturing institute to build a few of these things for us. We think there'd be a market for these things. Unfortunately, they can't be patented because of the process we went through, but we're still trying to move forward on that. Chris learned that there would be some Vermont Clean Water funds available to Vermont Fish and Wildlife dealing with phosphorus reduction plans from illegally dumped sewage from recreational boaters, but unfortunately they needed some data to really hone in on that. So she developed a boater survey that began this summer and will continue through 2019, just trying to get people's description of what kind of marine sanitation devices you've got on board, how much they get used, how often do they pump them out, how much are they willing to spend, that sort of thing. And that's going to continue through 2019. And I think I'll stop at that point. We can provide additional details on this stuff if anybody wants.
Thank you, Mark. Fantastic. And I'll reiterate that this is being recorded so that this will be, these notes and obviously the audio from the webinar will be available on the Clean Marina Network website, and we'll send a kind of a follow-up to everyone, and feel free, coordinators, if you'd like to, or if even down the road you want to provide some exciting updates, feel free to use the network listserv to share outcomes of what's happening, or even just, a press release so that the rest of us can continue to hear the good news and share what's going on across the Great Lakes. So thank you. All right. So what I'm going to do, I've talked with Jenny, our program administrator. I'm going to go ahead into the aquatic invasive species updates section that I have. I wanted to provide some updates to you all on AIS. And Jenny's going to keep an eye on the chat window. I'm going to mute everyone just so there's no background noise. And then at the end, but feel free to please use the chat box. Jenny will be watching it in case there are any issues, technical difficulties. And then at hopefully around 1:50, I'll open up for Q&A, and we'll unmute everybody at that point so that we can have some open discussion or questions at that point. So, all right. Sound good to everybody before I mute you? Okay. Now I have to unmute myself. And for those of you on the phone, if you don't know, it's *6 if you need to unmute yourself, I believe, on the phone. That's what it told me. Okay. So let me bring up, I have to bring up my invasive species PowerPoint here. Okay. All right. So please, somebody text me. Somebody have my phone number if you can't hear me. But I've got just a brief overview, kind of an update for you all on aquatic invasive species. This year has been kind of interesting. I've been keeping an eye on some of the different recreational boating and marine trades groups, and some of their work and support that they've had for aquatic invasive species across the country. And so I wanted to share some of this with all of you, and also offer some ideas or thoughts as to how we can leverage this for clean marina programs moving forward. So first, I'll go into some of the industry updates as to what's going on here. So NMMA, and this is for marine owners on the call, you're probably very familiar with this, but just wanted to provide an overview of the different organizations that we're working with here. The Marine Manufacturers Association is the leading trade association representing boat, marine, and engine and accessory manufacturers. They represent about 80% of marine products that are used in America. The American Boating Yacht Council is a nonprofit organization that develops voluntary safety standards. But those standards are about 90% of vessels on the water are built to those ABYC standards. So this year, NMMA came out with an official position paper on aquatic invasive species. They let anyone that read that paper know that they're working on changes in boat design, boater education programs, and federal, state, and local decontamination programs and inspection programs for aquatic invasive species. So the main thing is they're trying to focus on innovative ways to prevent basically the spread of aquatic invasive species, but obviously still keeping the recreational boater in mind. So trying to find that balance there is what NMMA's position is. The actions that they're doing, they have folks from NMMA actually serving on the Aquatic Nuisance Species Task Force. It's a national organization for working on invasive species, education outreach, and other policy initiatives. They've updated, they have a You and Your Trailer manual, and they now have important aquatic invasive species prevention information in that manual. So if there's any retailers on the call, keep an eye out for that. We feel that basically point of sale is a great educational opportunity, obviously for boating safety education, but more and more we're trying to stress clean boating education. So use that opportunity when you have a point of sale with a boater to talk about aquatic invasive species prevention. And so these resources, some of these manuals, can be a good way to do so. Also, and I'll go more into this next, but the American Boating Yacht Council was the first organization to consider actually how changing the design of a boat itself can help fight the spread of aquatic invasive species. So going more into that, the link below is a long link, but I encourage you to you can just Google ABYC AIS or T32, and it should bring up this boat design standard. They actually came up with a voluntary standard for boat design for the consideration of aquatic invasive species. So I'm going to cover a couple of the pieces of that standard briefly here, and you can certainly read that online for more information. So they actually looked at different pieces, parts of the boat, also not only just the hull itself, but you'll see there's other components and accessories that they looked at, all in consideration of aquatic invasive species. So they looked at hull design and how exterior surfaces and structures at or below the waterline can be changed or altered or just simply redesigned to minimize the spread of aquatic invasive species. So just some examples they're looking at for pontoon boats or similar vessels, just simply adding drains in the hull design, where if a boater is trailering their boat and going from body of water to body of water, they can actually reduce the spread of aquatic invasive species by just not even have to do anything if they are on a ramp, and a lot of that water could drain out instead of staying in that hull, potentially allowing those organisms to spread elsewhere when they're being transported. System and component considerations. So there are some standard design changes for interior areas, ballast tanks, even accessory equipment. So anchors, PFDs, dock lines, things like that. All of that are areas that they looked at and provided design standard change recommendations for those things. So if you ever work with a boat builder, or if you're considering, again, if you're a retailer or a marina that you are considering building new inventory, this is going to obviously take several years to phase in and start to see vessels that would be designed with these standards in mind. But it's something hopefully that we can kind of look forward to and support. I'll talk a little bit more in a second, but the main thing with these are the manufacturer stressed is that they are interested in trying to support NMMA and ABYC in working to prevent the spread of invasive species, but at the end of the day, they're also manufacturers. They have to make a profit, obviously. So these changes are going to be made only if there's support for, boats that people want to say, yes, I want my vessel to, just by function and design, have less of a chance of spreading aquatic invasive species. So some other pieces of the standard, they have the propulsion system, so which would apply to the motor, prop, paddles and oars in case you're a paddle boater, things like that. Looking at those design features and standard design for changes there that would help in prevention efforts, and this includes decontamination. So when ABYC put these standards together, they worked with representatives from all across the country. To put in context, out west, there are a lot of watercraft decontamination stations, and so what they did is looked at, okay, how can we redesign engines or propulsion systems so that it is actually easier to decontaminate those, or at least clean those areas when you're having these prevention efforts at boat ramps in states that have watercraft inspection and decontamination stations. And finally, trailer considerations. This applies to any part of the trailer: rollers, bunks, wheels, tires, fenders. There's lots of nooks and crannies where aquatic invasive species can harbor, and so they looked at how can they make it easier, again, for people to inspect those areas or clean those areas, or simply by not doing anything. Can we design these easier so that there's less aquatic invasive species spread when these vessels, or if these vessels are going from body of water to body of water. And the final piece of that standard that was just, put together is the literature. So going back to when I mentioned the point of sale, looking at owner's manuals or other educational materials that would be provided to a boater when they buy their vessel, and how can we continue to provide that clean boating education, that aquatic invasive species education right at point of sale. So right when they buy that vessel, okay, just so you're aware, this is a vessel that can help harbor or transport aquatic invasive species. And so as a boater, it would be fantastic if you can help us in taking action through things like Clean Grain Dry, Stop Aquatic Hitchhikers, those types of campaigns to reduce the spread of aquatic invasive species. So that standard came out this summer. There was a summit that was this September, if I remember right, that I went to that kind of was a culmination of, okay, the standard is out, and bringing together stakeholders to say, now what? Now what do we do with this? So ABYC brought together stakeholders from federal, state, and local agencies. So there were Sea Grant members there were DNR members there were U.S. Fish and Wildlife staff there, as well as members of industry, both from the manufacturing side all the way to design and installation, and then also some nonprofits, both locally and on a national scale, to talk about the standard. So some of the research, I'm not going to go into detail on this, but just know, feel free to reach out to me if you would like more information on any of these items. I'll kind of cover the high points here. Of note, especially for the marina industry, for those of you that work with trailerable boaters or really any boaters, there's a new aquatic invasive species of concern called the camphor chute beetle. It's actually an invasive species that bores into fuel tanks, especially portable fuel tanks, and not only can be transported, but it's actually, from what I learned at the summit, it's attracted to gasoline and ethanol, and so it's definitely something to be of concern for boaters in the recreational boating industry. So that's something on the horizon. I learned of that just for the first time at that summit. It's actually a beetle from Asia, and the folks from, I believe, U.S. Fish and Wildlife that shared it there said that there's no reason it won't spread nationwide. So that's definitely something to keep an eye out for. Look up more. Feel free to contact me, and I'm happy to share what information I received about that. And a reason to continue, as I was putting this presentation together, I feel like, I know folks probably get tired. We've been talking about invasive species for a long time. We obviously, in the Great Lakes, we have zebra mussels and quagga mussels, but just because we have currently invasive species that are in the Great Lakes, and it's kind of okay, they're here to stay. There's certainly, that's not the end, and we'll continue to see more aquatic invasive species, and so there's continued reason to keep trying to prevent the spread and introduction of new invasive species. So if we get in the habit of these things, we'll be all the more prepared for when the next invasive species comes. And by making these habits, stop aquatic hitchhikers, clean, drain, dry, or by actually implementing change in our vessel design, it'll make it all the easier to prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species. Some other items of note for the research, there were some fantastic research and studies that went around ballast systems outboard engine testing. So one of the key things when ABYC was designing the standards, and this has been several years in the works, is when you have states with watercraft decontamination programs, in some cases they're using a power washer to apply 140-degree Fahrenheit water at a fairly close range to decontaminate a vessel for invasive species. And several of the manufacturers were concerned about the engine and avoiding the warranty or other components of the vessel. So the ABYC standard was designed with those considerations in mind, and there's several studies that looked at the decontamination standards and how it performed on the engine and other components of the vessel. And so all the standards that are in this new ABYC document are with that in mind. So they will make sure that it helps prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species, but it also makes sure that the vessel is and all of the warranties and everything stay in place, that stays in place. Prevention efforts, this is just something I thought was helpful to share that I learned at the meeting. On this slide here, it was shared by, I think it was a Fish and Wildlife or a state Fish and Wildlife service person. But out west, as I mentioned, there's a lot of states that have watercraft inspection and decontamination programs. And so according to their data, they've successfully prevented the spread of zebra mussels or introduction of zebra mussels and quagga mussels in states with those programs. So I know, at least for Ohio, I can speak, we are much a prevention state and an education state. And so the way that we work to prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species by helping to educate our boaters and trying to encourage them to take steps at the boat ramp to prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species using clean, drain, dry. But if you have the ability to work on an inspection decontamination program, at least from this data, it's showing that it's working very well in those states that do implement them. there's obviously a range of approaches to that, but I just thought that was interesting to share. So where do we go from here? These were some of the takeaways that I got from the ABYC meeting and some of the things I've been following with the different groups. NMMA, their approach is going to be to continue to promote this design standard, the ABYC's design standard, to industry at all of their events and any way they can, as well as improving voter education publications on labels, manuals, and then advocacy. They made it clear in the meeting that they are, aquatic invasive species is definitely a priority of theirs. It was established in 2018, and I believe moving forward it will be, at least in the short term as well. So I think that's something of note, that as Clean Marina programs, if we have a focus on aquatic invasive species as part of our program, we can certainly look for opportunities to partner with NMMA and ABYC to help continue to educate our voters on preventing the spread of aquatic invasive species. So the manufacturers, they spoke up at this meeting, and their main points were that a lot of research has been done, so they felt good from that. A couple years ago, when this design standard was originally proposed, they were concerned. You know, how are these practices that we're doing, clean, drain, dry, going to affect our engines, our different vessel components? They said now that more information is out there, there's more opportunity for change. The challenge that they said is that the return on investment has not been actualized. So I mentioned this before. They said the best way to achieve change in manufacturing is to change the voice of the customer. So is there a market for, if they were really to start to incorporate these designs into vessels, to create what they're calling an AIS safe boat, or basically a vessel that would not spread invasive species just by invasive species getting stuck in cracks and crevices and things like that? You know, is there a market for that? And so I think that's just something to consider for all of us working on the environmental education front, and to try and continue to talk to our voters about the importance of preventing the spread of aquatic invasive species. And then finally, the agencies, and some of the discussion there was trying to figure out a way to standardize training and support. So something that was noted is, again, every state takes aquatic invasive species prevention with the recreational boating industry a little bit differently. And so trying to figure out how can we standardize some of our approaches, or make sure that we're being consistent, so that if a boater goes from state to state, they're not becoming frustrated by running into different things with every state. It may not happen, but it was just a discussion that was put out there. And then finally, how do we educate and incentivize voters for using AIS safe products? So if these design standards start to happen, how can we continue to educate our voters and work with our voters to recognize and incentivize those types of things? All right. So at this point, I'm going to stop and offer my contact information. I've been trying to keep a handle on some of these things. Certainly, there's definitely folks with NMMA and ABYC that have a lot more information and follow-up information. So I direct you to their websites and some of their resources there. But feel free to reach out to me if you have questions, or if you want my notes from any of these meetings on the research, things like that. I'm happy to share. And at this point, I'm going to open up for Q&A and other updates before we close out this call. So give me 1 second. Let me unmute everybody. Okay. All right. You are all unmuted. So if you don't want to speak, or if you want to be muted, please self-mute yourself. But at this time, if I can get back here, I'm going to go back to my end slide here and offer up the opportunity for Q&A and open discussion for folks on the call. So I'm wondering, I'll just kind of help facilitate. We only have a couple minutes, but on the folks that are on the call, I know there's a couple states across the Great Lakes that have, some may have required inspection programs, but I know several have voluntary inspection programs. I don't know if there's folks on the call that can chime in as to your thoughts on that. And I don't know if do your Clean Marina programs help work with you on that, or is that an entirely separate program?
Sarah, this is Dave. I'll add in because I think it's always important. And in New York, there are a few bodies of water that have a required, you have to get a sticker before your boat can go on their bodies of water. And those programs where they're able to, they have documented that the inspection programs have stopped an invasive species from going from one body of water to the next. So, you know, right here in the greater Great Lakes, we have the same kind of thing that you have out west that, you know, once people caught on that we want to try to prevent the continued spread. Those that are doing those programs very effectively, they're not cheap by any stretch, but those are, when they do take that serious, have proven that those kind of programs have stopped invasive going from one body of water to the next. So I think that's important for us all to realize, and kudos to you for sharing all that information. Always good to see that again from ABYC and NMMA.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave.
This is Mark, just to kind of follow on to Dave. What we're really seeing here in the Adirondacks now too is a lot of decontamination stations that are kind of taking things one further step. There's a lot of bodies of water in the Adirondacks that don't require inspection, but people are being urged to take advantage of a fairly large number of decontamination stations, that some of which are at boat launch sites, but some of them are just on major highways connecting various lakes around the Adirondacks. So there's a lot of that. And just a question, is this PowerPoint going to be available? I think you said it was, but I'd be interested in making sure I got copies of that industry stuff.
Sure. Yeah, Mark, what I can do, I was going to share the webinar recording, but I'll share the slides as well. And then that way, those should, you could click on that and get links and everything live. Yeah, I'll do that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
In Wisconsin, we have there's a really robust AIS program, and we are just starting to try to, where they have boat inspectors at the ramps in the summer statewide. And I think it's pretty well known with boaters, a lot of boaters now, and they have found that they are reaching boaters that way. And then their efforts we are just starting to work with the Clean Marina program and trying to make the program have stronger ties with the AIS folks, which should be easier since one of them is the person who leads Wisconsin is my coworker. So we should hopefully do that. I think the marinas kind of want it. We just had them present for the first time at our association conference, Wisconsin Marine Association Conference. And this is really, really interesting. So I would love actually to have them, you know, maybe, what is it? I'm sorry, I'm not used to all these boating acronyms. The safety one, the yacht club one. The yacht
ABYC. Yeah.
Yeah, they actually came and presented this year at the conference on just about their safety standards and the training they provide for their technicians. But the fact that maybe, you know, to have them come and present at our conferences in the future would be really great. And then I think and then also Tim Campbell, our AIS person, he was talking about how some marinas are now installing specifically putting in like areas for decontamination. So we could actually promote that as like a best management practice too in the design part of the Clean Marina program.
Great idea. Yeah. Julie, that's a great idea. And something to tie on with that, so I've been brainstorming, and I talked with some folks at the ABYC Invasive Species Summit about this, and I don't know if I'm crazy, but I'm going to keep trying with this. But since we are now being regulated on our boat wash wastewater for, obviously this is power washing the bottoms of the vessels, but I'm trying to brainstorm is there any ways that we can, I don't want to say hit two birds, but kind of dovetail with aquatic invasive species. And so we in Ohio obviously don't have mandated decontamination stations, but I'm thinking of if a marina is going to be putting in, let's say, a boat wash wastewater station for handling the power washing in the fall when they winterize the vessels. can we look at ways to be innovative and use that as an aquatic invasive species prevention station in the season when it's spring and fall, spring and summer, when that marina, if that marina has a boat ramp, if boaters would be using that area. So not sure if that's a crazy idea or if it's impractical, but I'm going to look into that and we'll let you all know if we're able to make anything like that work.
He also made it seem like, I mean, AIS has a lot of money in general for all of their outreach and educational programs. And so there's definitely money available too to help install these decontamination areas in certain areas. So I think there's definitely, for us, I think, future connections to be made and potential leveraging off of both of our programs. And they want to work with us too. So.
Perfect. Great.
Sarah, I have a question for you. This is Vicki. I was wondering, does Ohio's new law prohibit the discharge of decontamination water or rinse water, or is it just for pressure washing boats with ablative paints?
It's just for pressure washing the boats when you talk about just basically washing the vessels in the fall to remove, the paint in preparation for sanding and painting that winter. So it is not anything to do with the invasive species.
So that water can be discharged back to the lakes?
No, so that, as of the way the regulation is, it has to be, it's no discharge. So I guess the aquatic invasive species, if anybody were to wash their vessel for invasive species, it's not required in Ohio, but if somebody were to be, that's fine. But if they're doing power washing for basically to remove the paint and, prepare that boat, that water is now considered, long story, but it's now considered industrial wastewater, and that is not allowed to be discharged.
And does it, it's basically Wisconsin's law too. I mean, it's the Clean Water Act that classifies pressure wash water as industrial wastewater, but different states have different requirements for what has to be done with that. And Wisconsin will allow it to be discharged back, but it's supposed to go through some kind of filtration or some kind of treatment, which is pretty low tech here in Wisconsin. But it can go, the water can go back if it's been filtered.
Yeah, Vicki, this is Dave. I think as this discussion continues, and I know NMMA is very concerned about it, that's one of the reasons they're moving forward with their discussions, is it is piecemeal across the states and how they're implementing stormwater pollution prevention and others with discharge back in. I know here in New York it became a big issue with boat bottom washing. The people were saying, at my marina, if I have a boat and it has bottom paint on it and I lift it up and I wash it off, I haven't done anything different. It never left. So there's distinctions being made between, are you washing product off the bottom of a boat that came from that body of water versus transference. And now with the invasive species issue, one of the things they're talking about is, and we don't have a lot of them in New York, but it is then the boat bottom paint issue, that if you're removing a boat from a body of water, you're washing it off, you're allowing that water to go back in with the invasive that was in there, but it's not being transported, but you're now also washing off copper or other bottom paint. So it, again, as with everything, it sounds really great and wonderful, but you raise a really good question that I think we're going to continue to see some of those questions asked about bottom paint aspect of bottom washing for invasive species.
Great.
Sarah, sorry, I want to just squeeze in one quick question, hopefully. And I was just wondering about conferences, nationwide conferences. This is Julia again. If there's we're in a position finally maybe to send somebody to one for the next few years. So I don't know, is there a Clean Marina contingent around? Which one is the best? There seems to be several.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought, and sorry, so folks, I just want to say if you do need to get off the call, please fully understand. I know everybody, time is precious, but if you have a few seconds, Julia, I'm glad you asked that. Erin and I were actually talking this morning, and Erin DeVries is the co-coordinator for the Clean Marina Network, the Great Lakes Clean Marina Network. and Wendy, if you're on, I don't want to speak in your place, but feel free to chime in. But we've been talking about the possibility. I know years ago there was an IMBC meeting of Clean Marina folks, and not just coordinators, but just open to anybody. And we've talked about trying to bring together a group of Clean Marina programs for a regional meeting for some time now. And I was talking with Wendy and also Erin separately about maybe the Docs Expo that's put on by Marina Dock Age. They've been very supportive of our efforts and expressed interest in kind of hosting us as a location for a regional meeting. And one thought I had, and you guys feel free to chime in or let me know, but what if we were to set up maybe every 2 to 3 years a Clean Marina meeting where it wouldn't be something that you would have to set aside travel funds for every year? And again, not just coordinators, but marina owners, where it would be open. But you could plan for it every couple years so that hopefully you'd have the funding or be able to set aside some funding, justify being able to come to an in-person meeting. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Yes, Sarah, this is Dave. Julie, great question. I was sitting the same thing as I've made plans to go to IMBC in January.
Okay.
Unfortunately, many of you have now seen that MDCE is now split. So what many of us have worked for the last 25 years to do is to try to get the industry to come together. They're now splitting apart with their conferences. So next year there will actually be 4, and plus SOBA now you're at 5. So it's really unfortunate to see that. I think you asked a great question. To me, the question to ask is, whom are we trying to get together and whom are we trying to educate? And are we trying to get the coordinators together to share best management practices, tips, learn about the great work that you guys are going to do with your new GLRI and grants, those kind of things? Or are we trying to get with operators themselves? I would advocate that probably we need to ensure Clean Marina coordinators and those that are doing educational and technical aspects of it are getting together, because each one of our states are a little bit different. So to go to an IMBC and do a big clean marina program for marinas in the room, they may say, well, my state doesn't do that, or my state does it differently. So there's some issues that have become much more state specific. So I guess I would head towards, if the goal is to get all of us together, it probably needs to be more of like a SOBA or the National Extension Tourism Conference next October, where we would all be going as practitioners. And if you want to invite some marina people to come in and participate, but IMBC, MDCE, the Dockage Conference, those are all really for operators. And so I've questioned that the last couple of ones I've been to, that, somebody raises their hand, well, in Texas, that's not how we do it. Yeah, that's correct. So that would be a perspective I would offer.
That sounds great. So I think this is to be maybe a to be continued, and perhaps I'll kind of earmark it as a discussion point for our next coordinators call. But I think, something, I'll keep this in mind for the coordinators on the call, and the network call is for coordinators and marine owners. Maybe something that in future calls, when you have your state updates, maybe we'll use that as an opportunity to share with marine owners on the call if you will be at any of these, marina industry conferences, so that folks on the call would know, oh, hey, I'll look out for that Clean Marina person that'll be there, and use that as a mechanism to connect with folks, at least from the industry standpoint. So I'll make a note of that. Because I think if there are those of us that are at industry conferences, certainly we can connect with marine owners there. And again, if they say, oh, okay, you're not from my state, but at least we can help connect them with their Clean Marina program in their respective state.
Sarah, this is Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Wendy Larimer with Marina Dock Age, and we actually just wrapped up our Docs Expo last week. I kind of agree with Dave that, working on these conferences in the past, they work best when it's really just focused on you guys. So, from our perspective with Docs Expo, it would be giving you meeting space, opening up the opportunity for you to go to the rest of the conference, which has of course, a huge educational component. But then also the chance that you're on site with all these marina operators so we can promote that. You know, there's this Clean Marina conference maybe at the beginning of Docs Expo. So all your state Clean Marina people are here. And maybe setting up a booth or something for you, just so you'd have an opportunity to do some networking with people in the industry more than trying to have some sort of a meeting for them. So that was that was what I saw as an advantage of having you know, come to an existing event. So not so much having an event for the marina operators, having your own event, but then you're there. And they can put a face with a name and things like that. And you can help promote what you're doing. So that was just my thinking when we offer, you know, when we offer up to you space for you to do a meeting or a conference.
Awesome. Thank you, Wendy. I think that's definitely something that at least I would love to look at more and think about more. And I don't know how many of you have been to Docs Expo, but I had a really good experience there. I think it was a very helpful educational piece. So yeah, we'll mark this as something that we'll talk about further. But thanks, Julia, for bringing that up, because I think that's something we definitely need to get back to. And hopefully, you know, we'll see. I can't speak too much, but you know, with some funding come in, maybe we can look at how we can help, you know, provide funding and support for travel and things like that for such a meeting of the coordinators. And then if there's coordinators going to share their work with others in the industry. So awesome. All right. Well, it's past 2 o'clock now. I want to offer just one final, if anybody else has any burning questions or thoughts or things they want to share before we close out. And Erin, feel free if I missed anything.
You did a great job, Sarah. Good discussion. Thank you for putting all those slides together for the NMAA and all those acronyms.
Alphabet soup.
Alphabet soup, yes. Thanks, Sarah.
And I apologize for those that weren't able to speak up in the beginning. Hopefully we got everybody. And one final thing, Greg spoke up and asked a question about from private sector and public funding to the Clean Marina program. So Greg, I don't know, just real quick, are you able to unmute yourself? And if you want to clarify that question, or if anything, I can follow up with you outside of the meeting about that question. Greg, you might have been muted. So it looks like Greg asked, how do you go to market regarding funding for marketing? So from private sector and public funding to the Clean Marina program. So if anybody has comments on that, I think from Ohio's perspective, if I'm reading this correctly, so for helping our programs market themselves, we basically provide press releases and website support and other ways that we try and market that marina. If anybody has any other comments, feel free to chime in. I'm not sure if I'm understanding Greg's question fully. But.
Hi, this is Erin DeVries from Michigan's Clean Marina Program, and Greg is a certification consultant for the Michigan Clean Marina Program, and he and I, our board last week or 2 weeks ago, we're talking about this, and his question is about how does the Michigan Clean Marina Program market itself to private and public sector funders? So, you know, like everyone, I'm sure, you know, from marina owner or operator to our coordinators is, you know, there's not a lot of funds just funneling into our state programs or maybe to your marina to do the things that you want to do. And so we're trying to figure out, you know, what's our marketing strategy for our program so that we can do more things for our marinas. And we can share to more marinas that aren't yet certified, hey, we'd like you to be certified. This is the return on investment for you because we've invested so much and we've gotten that funding from either the public state funds, you know, which are limited, time limited and dollar limited to, you know, private sector funds, which, you know, Greg and I and others have been talking about, you know, there's a lot of money out there for AIS, for, you know, with I guess I'll call them like marina harbor realtors that, you know, buy marinas, that want all of their marinas to be clean marinas. Well, hey, if they've got the money to buy those marinas, do they have the money to fund a program to make all of their marinas clean marinas? So I've talked too much, but that's what Greg was getting at if he isn't able to unmute himself.
And Greg, if you want to try *6 on the phone, if you're on the phone, that may unmute you. It shows that you're unmuted on my end. I apologize for that. Aaron, maybe what we'll do.
Yes, yes.
Oh, there he is.
Okay.
I may just real quick, for those, I'm going to take a break. For anybody who wants to get off the call, if you need to, I just want to make sure that I'll follow up with recording and meeting notes and any follow-up that we have on this discussion here. So thank you. Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you, Aaron. That's exactly what I was trying to express, and I'm curious to the other states where they found the greatest success and how to approach private sector for funding to support this program, as well as you know, governmental sectors, the state and federal level. So I'm open to any ideas anybody's got. If you could please share. Thank you.
That's a good question. That's a good, tough question, Greg. That might be something I'm thinking if we can save as a topic, and maybe if we reach out to our state programs and ask, I'd be happy to compile kind of a round robin update for the next network call. I know it's something I'm going to have to think about hard, because I honestly, we have our funding and we've been kind of rolling and not status quo. I mean, we changed, but haven't really thought innovatively about trying to look for investment in Clean Marina from outside, especially private funders. So maybe that's something we should stop and think about for sure.
That'd be great.
Sarah, this is Vicki. I know that the network spent quite a bit of time, in the last 2 years, talking about trying to market or pool our efforts to market the Clean Marina programs to marina operators so that more of them participate in the program. And I think that the list of vendors that offer discounts for certified marinas is a start. We haven't really rounded up enough vendors here in Wisconsin to make it, you know, like highly visible, I guess, to the marinas here. But one of the things we've talked about the need for is to market the Clean Marina brand to boaters so that they're seeking out certified marinas to use and to give their business to, and that would incentivize the program for marinas. But I agree with Greg that there's also a need to market the program itself. I think there was some work done years ago about the benefits of Clean Marina programs to water quality, and to be able to market this maybe to agencies at the state or federal level is to resurrect some of that information, or maybe through your new grant, if you're going to be getting some monitoring information from installing green infrastructure, to use that to help promote the program to these agencies that can potentially fund the program.
Yep.
Vicki, that's a fantastic point. I think that's a really great idea. I think that's part of what we discussed too, is how, especially, you're right, if we do the monitoring, how can we use that to say, because right now, a lot of us are, okay, we have X number of certified clean marinas, we have this, which is great. But I think, at least, again, personally, I don't want to speak, but for these projects, I'm hoping to be able to get to a point of being able to say, so what, and answer that question. Okay, so what? So we're working on recommending these best practices. And if we are going to continue to move forward with some of these stormwater best practices, are they having an impact? And if so, you know, from this monitoring data or whatever, can we show that? Can we really get to a point of saying, hey, as a result of what we're doing, we are having, you know, this is the impact we're having on water quality, or this is the impact we're having on flooding, or things like that. So that's a really good point.
Hey, Sarah, it's Wendy again. Not that this question is a perfect example, but Marina Dock Age will be doing our annual Clean Marina survey again, January, February timeframe. So if any of you have suggestions of questions that you'd like to ask, and that survey goes out to all the program directors in the U.S., you know, send them to me, and we will certainly consider questions that we can add to that survey, because we don't look at it necessarily as strictly trends over the years. We do have the ability to add a few new questions as you guys have some things maybe you want to know, you know, what's happening across the states. And then also when you get that, please fill it out. I feel like I chase all of you down every year.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you for the opportunity.
Wendy, do you ask the question about whether Marina is certified or not, or working toward or interested in becoming a certified Marina?
Well, this survey actually goes out to you guys, not the marinas.
Oh, I see. That's right.
Our annual survey that we do for marinas, we do ask if they're clean marinas or not. We don't ask if they're considering it. But that's a good idea.
Thank you, Wendy. That's a great opportunity. That'd be, yeah, maybe I'll see if I can pare down some of these questions that seems like we would like to know more from, almost like a poll from the rest of the group. So maybe maybe if Erin and I can put some questions together and we can send them around to all the coordinators to see what else they want to add. Wendy, when would you be getting that together, that survey together?
I mean, it's really together because we send you the same one every year. We usually send it out January, February, sometime in there.
Okay.
Sarah, I can definitely help with that, putting that. I think that question is really important. It comes up in our coordinator calls and network call, you know, when I read the notes, you know, for several years now.
Awesome. Thanks, Erin.
Sure.
I think we're good. Thank you guys all for participating and your active participation. I appreciate it. I'll send out notes. And Greg, I apologize. I'm sorry. I don't know why I couldn't get that. It showed that you were unmuted. I must have been something with the phone. So I'll send around the recording when we get that closed up and available. I'll send around slides for coordinators on the call. I'll send around some notes for the coordinators meeting. And Erin and I will be meeting over the next couple months to plan, I think, 2019 and 2021 meetings out. So we'll touch base with all of you again at that time to schedule some dates and kind of get some rough timelines on the calendar for the network meetings moving forward. If you ever have an idea or a topic that you'd like to see featured or covered on these webinars, please reach out to myself or Erin. I can go back to my slide here. You can reach me at orlando.42@osu.edu. And then Erin, if you could read off your email, I don't want to.
Sure. Sure, it's edevries@umich.edu, umich.edu. And you can also, everyone who's part of the network, we have our Great Lakes Clean Marina Network listserv, so you can send emails, and Sarah and I both receive those emails. It's Great Lake Clean Marina @umich.edu, I believe.
Perfect. And we'll send out all these via email as well so that you have our information. All right. Thanks, everybody. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to email us or let us know. And with that, have a very happy holiday, happy New Year, and we'll talk to you in 2019.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.